I'd like to welcome everybody to the 3/8 Finance Committee meeting. Tonight on our agenda is acceptance of minutes, budgets, discussion of wage and personnel amendments, if there are any, reserve fund transfers, if there are any, correspondence, public participation, and we'll look at our calendar again. So the first thing, I noticed that Linda sent out the minutes kind of late at 4:48. So I don't know if everybody's had a chance to review them. We can either vote on accepting them today, or we can wait till Wednesday if people haven't actually read them yet. Anybody have a preference of what we do?
I don't.
All right, then can I have a motion to accept the minutes from 3/8 then?
I make a motion to accept minutes from 3/8/2021.
I think they're the 3/1 minutes.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
3/1, sorry.
3/1 minutes, yeah.
No problem.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so the 3/1 minutes have been accepted. Next on our agenda is the budgets. That's the biggest part, so we're going to skip that real quick. Do we have any wage and personnel amendments yet, Charlie?
Nothing new. Well, I'm still working on the big one, which is the grade 6 and 7. Thinking about the situation with the chiefs and town administrator and the whole discontinuity in the upper grades, I think the only solution would be, and it's not elegant, it's basic and simple, but it's not elegant because our plan is supposed to be based on points, and the grades are attached to the points, and then the resulting positions are graded based on the points. And this is going to be an artificial change, not based on point information, but create grades 16, 18, and 20, and move the chiefs up to 20, move the administrator at least up to 18. I don't know if we do anything with 16, but what that does is provide, I think most people, just in terms of common sense, would be saying that those positions need to be above the other positions that are at 14 right now. For instance, the police lieutenant, as an example, is at 14. Now, those three positions, they have contracts and everything. This is a fallback situation where if for some reason we had a time when one of the chiefs or the town administrator didn't have a contract, then they are wage and personnel positions. And therefore, they would need to have grades and they would need to have wages associated or salaries associated with them. They may not have steps. You might say there's only one step for each of those grades, which reduces some of the complication, but it's a solution. It's not on the basis of how the point should be working, but short of redoing the entire plan and assigning redoing the point scale versus the grades and everything, I think we're out of luck, and we're not going to do that during the next few weeks, certainly.
Okay. I just realized we didn't vote on the minutes. We just did the, so we need to vote on that. So I'll do a roll call vote. Cheryl?
Aye.
Okay. Joe?
Aye.
Tom Connolly?
Aye.
Lauren?
She was,
And Drew?
she wasn't here.
Okay, well, whoever was here. Who was here?
Oh,
Is that Drew was here though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Drew.
Yeah, mute, Drew.
Okay, and I was I'm an I as well. So
Yeah.
okay, now that's out of the way. Well, no, still new at this, so bear with me.
Of course.
Yeah.
So Charlie, what you're describing though, let me just check. That's pretty typical practice in private sector where you benchmark all the jobs that you can price and point, and then you slot everybody else. So basically what you're suggesting is that we slot those two positions against jobs that have been priced and benchmarked and hay pointed. Yeah?
Well, back in the day, we graded all these positions, based on the point scales we were using.
Yeah.
I think we can, if necessary, I believe both chiefs have data from their counterparts in the area or from the 10 towns, so that if we wanted to, not their contract, but just a wage and personnel amount of salary, we could come up with a number and say, okay, grade 20 is associated with that salary, grade 18 with this salary, grade 16. It's not how it should be, but I'm going to live with, I'd rather live with that than the discontinuity of having the police chief at 12 and having the police lieutenant at 14, because that's what we've got right now.
Right.
It seems like a practical solution.
And I don't need a vote tonight or anything, but in terms of trying to talk it out, and I'm happy to, well, you should be happy. I'm not the
Makes
person
sense.
writing this, but you should be happy to hear other ideas of how to deal with that. But it's either that or they become an ungraded position, which, you know, and then again, associated with a salary, if they end up being a wage and personnel employee, because that would be the other way. Then you don't have to worry about points or anything, but the salaries will be set at a high enough number to differentiate them from the positions that are in grade 14.
Mm.
All right, for correspondence, I actually sent an email from Barbara Gaynor, and I know Linda got it, which was on the administrative assistance, requesting rate of pay. So is that something that's voted on by us, Charlie, or is that, how does that work?
So she wants to bring in someone for initial starting pay rate of, I believe, step 3, I believe.
Yeah, grade 6,
yeah.
step 3,
Right.
yeah.
So it used to be what would happen is the department head would go to wage and personnel, the wage and personnel board would make that decision whether or not to start that person at a step other than step 1. In this case now, it's a decision by the board of selectmen and the finance committee.
Mhm.
Both of them saying yes to it.
Has a selectman voted on it yet?
No, they haven't met since Barbara had asked for it. I'd have to go back. I think I put it on the agenda for tomorrow.
Okay. So is this a new position, or is it replacing an old position?
Well, it's someone new in the old position. So she's, so
But
Barbara, the
it's an
town clerk.
experienced hire.
What's that, Tom?
But I think it's an experienced hire.
It is. I was just kind of curious what the previous person's grade and step was.
The previous person was at step 1.
Step 1.
She
Okay.
left town employment, I think, in October. If I remember right. Sandy, was that about it? I think. I'd say you should know. I'm just remember.
I believe that was,
That was about right, Charlie.
So.
And obviously this wouldn't have been included in any, is this included in the budget proposals by Barbara?
I don't think in our initial budget proposal was included. You'd have to make an adjustment for FY22.
no, excuse me, Charlie, in her FY22, she put in a budget for an assistant town clerk at step 1. So that should be fine.
And what can happen in the meantime is that this person, if at some point between now and July 1st, Barbara believes it's time to hire an assistant town clerk, you know, it's a little bit of rigmarole, but we'll advertise for the assistant town clerk. Candidates, including the administrative assistant, can apply for the job. Barbara then will appoint someone as assistant town clerk. And that person would then start at step 7, grade 7, step.
Great. So
All right, does anybody have any other questions on this issue?
Charlie,
Yeah.
you didn't happen to have a pay scale available, would you?
Yeah.
Do you know what the step 3 would bring her to?
Yeah, I'll get it. Let's see, 6.3 would get her to 2043. She's at 1883 right now at step 1 of grade 6, 2043 for step 3 of grade 6.
And
then
what is 7.1?
$20.58.
All right, so what you're doing there, because I believe the difference is not 2%. So if we grant her a step 3 at this point, then she gets she gets the position of the assistant town clerk.
Right,
It
she's
has
hired-
to be at least a 2% increase. So she would not be able to start at step one.
Right, if she was hired as the assistant town clerk.
Right. So I'm just saying, as far as Barbara's budget for next year, we would have to increase her budget
Well,
if that was the plan.
I think it would be practical to do so. We can't make that assumption, but it would make sense to do so.
Yeah, and we haven't even really talked about wages yet because we have to make a policy on what we're actually going to be doing with all the other budgets before we even get to wages. So when do we have to make a decision on this one?
I mean, on bringing her in at step 3,
Yeah,
well, it would be better to do it sooner rather than later. I believe, Sandy, when Barbara budgeted for the year we're in now, she also
She
budgeted.
should have plenty of money in the year we are in now because she hasn't had anyone in employ since October. So that shouldn't be an issue.
So what will happen is for FY '22, we'll assume for the moment in a scenario that if this person is hired and starts at step 3, then the budget for FY '22, setting aside any general pay increase, would be the prudent thing to do would be to budget it at step 2 at 2138 of grade 7. It doesn't mean that that person's going to be hired. It just means that we'll have, the money will be there in case that's what happens. But
okay,
as you said, Frederick, the across the board increase is a whole different matter that you're going to have to work on once you've worked out much of the other parts of the budget.
yeah, and we're probably not going to be there for another, well, next week, maybe by the end of the week, hopefully. I don't know, we'll see. It's hard because you got to wait for the new school budgets to come in and everything else, so.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, I talked to Gordon earlier today, obviously they're still trying to come in, or at least the discussion's going on about bringing in amended lower budgets than they initially submitted, but we don't have those.
okay. So do we want to, anybody have a feeling, do we want to vote on it tonight, wait till Wednesday so people can do more research? Wait till next Monday? How do we want to handle this one, guys? Anybody have a,
Could I ask, is this a precursor to bringing this person in as the assistant?
It can be in the sense of, so what happens is that unless you've had previous experience in a town clerk's office, it's extremely unlikely you're going to be hired day one as the assistant town clerk.
Yeah.
So think of it as an evaluation period in that Barbara can hire an administrative assistant at grade 6, see how this person works out. Is this person going to be able to do the job? Because basically, the day that this person is assistant town clerk, if Barbara isn't here, they are the town clerk. They have all the responsibilities and duties of a town clerk. And so Barbara, for instance, the person who just got hired, who started last week, doesn't have the information, doesn't have the knowledge to walk in today, tomorrow, and be the assistant town clerk. So Barbara, whether it's 90 days from now, 120 days from now, whatever, if Barbara feels the time is right to hire an assistant town clerk, they will advertise the position. People can submit applications and Barbara will pick someone. Now, if this person is qualified then by that point to be an assistant town clerk, then Barbara can hire that person. If there's somebody else who applies who also has at least that experience, Barbara could hire that person. It's not required that Barbara select this person who's the administrative assistant as assistant town clerk. Having said that,
my question was really about intent. I mean, I just think we have some retirement risk here. So getting this buttoned up is important.
I think Barbara, when she hires people, it is her intention, at least with the hope, that that person will end up doing a good enough job that she can then go out and hire an assistant town clerk, and that there's a good chance that that person will be one. I'm being very, very careful about my language here.
Yeah, I hear you.
We've had disputes in the past about, automatically promoting somebody. So I'm avoiding saying that Barbara has to hire this person or that Barbara will hire this person as the assistant town clerk. It is Barbara's choice to make. We will fully advertise the job. People can apply. For all I know, 2 months from now, if Barbara does this, there might be somebody who walks in and has a better resume than the person who's the administrative assistant.
Yeah.
Right.
So we don't have the exact increase yet, right?
Well, what you know from step 1 to step 3, for the year we're in now, you have sufficient money to do so.
Right. I'm just wondering, can we wait till Wednesday and then we have the exact number of the increase on the budget?
For fiscal 22,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we could do, Sandy, we could,
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay, I just like
And
to
I can
know,
I can get that information for the selectmen if they'd like it also.
yeah, I just like to see the exact number that's going to increase the budget before I actually vote on it. I don't like to do a blanket vote unless everybody else wants to do it
well, I mean,
without
let's see,
seeing.
it's, the difference is 80 cents. She works 1,600 hours.
Yeah,
That's, I believe,
$1,200.
so Tom, do you think we should just do this now then?
No, I mean, I think waiting till Wednesday, if we get more data on it, Fred, that makes total sense. I think, yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we'll circle back to this on Wednesday. And then we'll have like the adjusted budget numbers and everything else like that for this particular request. Is there anything else other wage and personnel at this point?
I don't have anything else right now, no.
Okay. So moving on, do we have any reserve fund transfers?
No, we don't.
Okay, any other correspondence other than that one letter that I got?
No, just the only other thing was that one email from Charlie regarding the call firefighters and their wage and personnel reclassifications, but I think it was just informational that Charlie was sending and asking if any of you had questions to bring to him.
Okay. So then let's move on to the main reason we're here, which is a budget discussion. What we need to do basically is set a couple of, set our policy, what we want to do. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is the $300,000 buffer. Now, we've had that in place for a long time, right, Charlie?
Yeah, 5 years maybe, something in
years,
that
yeah.
order.
Yeah, and I believe you mentioned that if we were to get rid of that, that's an automatic 1.7% increase in the property tax, approximately.
Something on that order, yeah.
So,
You throw out the whole thing, yeah.
right, I now I know we are, $650,000. If we were to approve everything, we've got a negative $650,000 or a negative $350,000 if we were to get rid of the buffer. So I just wanted to open up discussion on what people's thoughts are of keeping the buffer or getting rid of the buffer. So does anybody, I have my own opinion. I just want to see what everybody else has, and then we can vote to decide whether we're going to keep it or get rid of it for this year. So like, anybody want to start?
I think there'll be a day when we'll be in more dire straits than we are right now, and that would be the year to get rid of the buffer. I personally I know I'm short tenured here, but it just doesn't sound prudent yet that we take that action. Particularly, we haven't seen the second round of school budgets. I know we've got a sort of $1.4 million increase associated mainly with public safety and schools. I think we need to see the finals on those. That's just my view.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah, getting back to what you're saying, Tom, is I am concerned about getting rid of it myself. For instance, last year, we did not vote to recommend the Silver Lake District amount. However, Kingston and Plimpton did, so we were on the hook for it anyways. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. We had the money to absorb that. My concern this year is if we were to get rid of if we keep that buffer and we plan accordingly. If we have to go with the number, whatever number they give us,
The override.
got that buffer to absorb it so that we're not going over. So,
Yeah, it's just another
Yep.
argument for it.
okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we're going to keep the $300,000 buffer for at least this year. Can I hear?
I second that motion.
Well, you gotta make a first motion, yeah.
Oh, I make a motion that we keep the $300,000
Think I have
buffer
a
for
second?
this year.
Second.
Okay, we're gonna do a roll call vote. Cheryl,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Tom Connolly,
Aye.
Lauren,
Aye.
and Drew.
Aye.
Okay, and myself is an aye. So Sandy, getting back to what we talked about last week, the next thing on my agenda that I wanted to talk about is what is our plan of attack on how we're going to approach the budget. I mean, one idea, which is what Sandy has a spreadsheet for us, is that we basically go through and we approve everybody who to have the same amount that they had last year, unless they're requesting less than what they did last year. And then after that, we could then say, okay, what are our contractual obligations? And then after that, we could deal with the wages. And then whatever's left, we can then say, okay, who's got the biggest need at that point? So if we go that route, then Sandy can just go back to the department and say, hey, this is the plan that we're going to basically try to give you exactly the same amount that you got last year. I mean, unless there's some really big reason why you need an increase, that would be the plan. But if you do have a reason why you really, really, really need the money, let us know. And then at the end of the day, when we see what we have left, we'll have to rate those priorities. So that was sort of my idea, but I wanted to see if anybody else had other ideas because,
That's the way we did it last year, isn't it?
well, typically what we do is we would go through and we would anything that was
Level funded.
we would approve.
Right.
What I'm suggesting is it doesn't matter if they put an increase or not. We approve the same amount from last year,
Okay.
and then at some point we'll come back and see what money's left.
So Fred, are you saying that basically if a department has a decrease, you would re-increase them?
No,
Okay. Okay.
So for instance, if they had a line item of $1,000 and it went down to 900,
Yeah.
I would suggest that we vote on the 900.
Okay, all right.
Not the
Yeah.
1,000.
I just wanted to
However,
be
if
clear.
they
that-
had, right, but if
Okay.
they asked for 1,200, I suggest that we say we vote on the 1,000.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And at the end of the day,
whatever's left.
there isn't going to be much, especially, at the end of the day, especially because we're going to sit there and say, okay, this is what we got, maybe 150, 200 maybe. And then we're going to sit there and say, okay, what are the schools? What's the police? What's the fire? It's going to go fast. But at least, yes.
Yeah, the spreadsheet that I sent out on March 1st.
Yep.
The blue highlighted column to the far right, shows everyone level funded except for on the payroll, on the salary or wage lines, if there were steps, we gave the steps. And except for a few of the contractual things that we knew we needed to do, like the retirement and the health insurance. The health insurance, Linda, what I did is I brought it to 4%. We still haven't gotten a number yet. And that we like to do that one a little closer to May, because sometimes we have families that come in or drop and that helps us. But so we have more accurate figure.
I haven't read the email fully, but I think they actually did come in setting a rate while I was out. I just have to cut back to work tomorrow and probably run through who's on what plan and what's costing.
Right. So Linda will look at the group insurance line as her assistant treasurer role and give us a better number on that. But so I've tried to include every contractual one that I know of, and I level funded all the expense lines. And we come out with, in the synopsis, it comes out with about 112,600 in the black. So that's not a lot of money, but what I
No.
did do, I also level funded the schools, not the
Right.
special needs, but the
No, you
other
can't do
school
that. Yep.
lines, right? So the other school lines. So they could come back and say, well, our wages, our steps and lanes are going to take up this amount of money. I did talk to the business manager at the school and told her what we were looking for. As I said last week, it is difficult to get that information. It's just more difficult for us to get that information from them. So, but I did that so that you'd have some place to start. So if that's what you wanted to look at, that's what it would look
Right.
like. And that's, again, like I said, I level funded I believe all of the expense lines.
And that's keeping the $300,000 buffer, right, Sandy?
Right, that's
Yeah.
keeping the $300,000 buffer.
So I don't have a problem like going through and voting on anything except for wages. Again, like if as Charlie's pointed out, if the schools give a step increase, we like to try to be the same. So I'm not sure we should vote on like the wage lines yet because we don't know what any of the school stuff is. But I don't have a problem going through line by line, any non-wage item and just basically sitting there saying, this is the blue number and that's what we're gonna vote on. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that particular problem?
I think it's the only way to proceed, other than the way they did it last year, but I think you get us further doing it this way, Fred, and then we just need to come back and re-vote those little votes that will spend that 112 or whatever the number winds up being at the end, right?
Right, okay, so,
I agree with that.
okay. So Sandy, if again, that's gonna be our intention, if you wanna let the departments know. And what I thought we would do is start going through some of these line items. Again, since we know what the number in blue is, basically I'm just going to ask for,
Votes.
for each line item that we can. And I thought we would do this for, I don't want to do this too long because it's already 6:30. And I know Charlie's got that 7 o'clock meeting and I do want to leave a little bit of time unless there's public participation or calendar. But if we can spend like 10 or 15 minutes, maybe even just knocking off like the top section for like the through like the total general government section. So does everybody have the FinCom budget sheet open? So
The 3-1 sheet, right?
yeah, the 3-1 sheet.
What are we looking at?
What we're basically going to do, Cheryl, is on column U, which is the blue one, okay?
But is it the cherry sheet or? blue?
No, it's under the fiscal year 22 expense sheet.
22. The
Yeah.
articles.
Far
Far right tab.
right, all the way to the right, yeah. So this is the sheet we're going to primarily use tonight and on Wednesday. I'd like, between tonight and Wednesday, I like to get through everything on here that's not a wage line, so that those are done this week.
Okay.
Okay, so again, if everybody's got it open under the fiscal year 22, we're going to start. Let's see, 1, 2, and 3 are salaries, so we can't touch those. Clerical, that's not a salary, is it?
Yeah.
That's salary.
That's salary, okay. Selectmen expense, can we do that one then?
Yep.
Okay, so then I'd like to make a motion that we approve line number 5, selectmen expense in the amount of $3,925.
You need a motion or a second?
I need a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve line 5 of the budget in the amount of $39.25.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Lauren,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
And myself as an aye. Hey, we got one done. Line item 6, the law account. I'd like to make a motion to approve line item 6 law in the amount of $124,500.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a
Second.
second? Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Aye. Or
and
yes.
Drew,
Aye.
and myself as an aye. So that one's done. Line item 7, town hall electricity. Would somebody like to make a motion to recommend that in the amount of $15,000?
Motion.
Or a second?
Second. Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is an aye. Line item 8, I'd like somebody to make a motion for line item 8, town meeting warrants in the amount of $66,000.
Motion.
6,600.
66,
All right,
thank you. yeah.
6,600. Thank you, Joe.
6,600, corrected. So did I hear a motion?
Yes, motion made.
And second?
Second. Second.
Okay, and let's do a roll call. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
and Drew,
Yes.
and myself is an aye. Audit, line item 9, audit. Would somebody like to make a motion for in the amount of $25,500?
Motion to approve.
Yes,
Second.
motion approved.
Second.
Okay. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
and Drew,
Yes.
and myself as an aye. So I think expenses would be next, right, Sandy? FinCom
Right.
expense? Okay.
Yep.
Would somebody like to make a motion to approve line items 11 FinCom expense in the amount of $359?
I'll
So
make that
moved.
motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself as an aye. That's a yes. What's next?
14.
Yeah, accountant expense. Okay, line item 14, accountant expense. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve that line item for the amount of $1,625?
So moved.
For
Second.
a second, okay. Roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is an aye. Moving on to line item 15.
I would like
which
you to skip 15.
Okay.
15 has a payroll, has wages in it,
Okay,
and we also need to determine which things are contract, because it's data processing. We have a lot of licensing and stuff in there, so
okay.
we have
So
to
would
look
it-
closer at that one.
Sure, so
So
will
you
we
could
jump
go to 19,
19? Okay. yeah.
19.
All right, so line item 19, assessors expense. Somebody like to make a motion to approve the amount of, let's see. You increased this one, right?
Actually, that one went down. We should
Yeah.
decrease that to the 13,165.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you had
Yeah.
1465, you had 14,665 in the blue.
Right,
Look at
And I'm
that.
like,
We got an
eh,
extra
but I would
1,500
decrease
bucks.
it.
Yeah, okay.
Decrease that to 13,165.
165, okay.
We get
so-
extra money.
Yeah.
There you
All
go.
right, so I'd like to, somebody to make a motion to approve line item 19, assessors expense in the amount of $13,165.
So moved. Oh, second.
Roll call vote, Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself as an aye. Let's see. Assesses, let's see, where are we now?
20?
20?
Number 20.
Office expense, office machines, okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve line item 20, office machine expense in the amount of 6,000?
So moved?
Second,
Second,
Okay. A roll call vote. Cheryl,
yes.
Joe,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Okay, skipping salary. We go down to 23, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
23.
Line 23, treasurer's expense. I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve line 23 treasurer's expense in the amount of $7,500.
So moved?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Cheryl,
yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew, and myself is a yes. Line 24, collector's expense. I'd like to make a motion for somebody to approve line 24, collector's expense in the amount of $14,850.
So moved?
Second,
Roll call vote. Cheryl,
yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is yes.
Frederick,
Yes,
I need you to go back to the audit line.
sure, which is line 9.
Right. So I was having this internal conversation. I was texting Sandy, but I was doing all the texting. But we
Oh,
have
sorry, Charlie.
we have what's called the single audit. Most years we don't have to do that, and that's tied into federal funds, where if we don't get a certain amount of money from the feds, we don't have to do a single audit. We just do a regular audit. And the cost between a regular audit and single audit is not substantial. Our auditors said it's going to be another $1,000. But for the year we're in now, we're going to be getting all that CARES money reimbursed to us through Plymouth County, but it's all federal money. So we're going to have to do a single audit for the fiscal 21 books, which is the audit that we deal with during fiscal 22, the budget you're doing.
Right.
So instead of 25.5, we need 26.5.
All right, does anybody have a problem? I mean, it's not following our patent, but I don't have a problem with that unless somebody else does. We can revote on that. So
Sure.
do we have to revoke the other one or just make a new motion to approve the higher
Yeah,
amount?
wait, just hold on, sorry. You know what? Can you table that line? Let me get you the letter,
Okay, so
because
do we need to revoke our approval
you're
of
gonna have
line
to go
9?
back at some point. I want to make sure that I have the right information. I'm looking at the letter from the auditors, and the single audit, $1,000 was the wrong number. I'm reading this because, the total is going to be 31.5. It's 26.5 for this regular audit, another 5,000 for the single audit. So why don't you skip that? We're going to have to do it.
Yeah,
Why don't we skip it? We'll get back to it on Wednesday. I'll
yeah,
get you the-
okay, because again, that could come under like the contractual stuff. which
Yeah.
We know we're gonna have to
Yeah.
deal with, so we can leave the 25.5 as is. We're gonna have to go back and fix some
Yeah.
of these numbers anyway.
I'm getting up for a minute. I'm hearing voices down the hall that I might need to deal
Okay,
with.
we're gonna wrap in a minute anyways, because I know everybody needs to get offline. So the last one we did was 24, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
We're on
Yes.
25.
So is 20, we can do 25, right?
Yeah.
Andy?
Yes.
Oh,
So I'd like someone make a motion for line 25 treasurer, banking and payroll expense in the amount of $7,900.
so
So
moved?
Second,
Second.
Roll call vote. Cheryl,
yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
myself is yes. Tax title treasurer, what's that? Is that salary?
Expense.
No,
That's expense? Okay.
that's not salary. You can move that one.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion for line 26, tax title treasurer to approve in the amount of $5,000.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
myself is yes. Okay, that's 26. We have to skip 27, skip 28. 29, town clerk specs. So if somebody would make a motion to approve line 29, town clerk expense in the amount of $4,035.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
myself is yes. Let's see what else we got. Elect register, line 30. So I'd like somebody to make a motion to approve line 30, elect register in the amount of 11,784.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is yes. And since it's almost 6:45, let's stop here because it's a nice even number for you to remember. And we were going to pick this has got bulk of what we're going to do on Wednesday. We'll continue this process. So the last things on our agenda is I wanted to see if there's any public participation while we still have 10 minutes left. No public participation. All right.
Gene, the chief here. No.
No, okay. Calendars are set for Monday and Wednesday throughout the rest of the month. And I believe that's what we voted on last week. Unless, okay. Anybody else have anything before we sign off?
No.
So,
All right. Then I'd like to make a motion to end tonight's FinCom meeting at 6:45 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn. Yep. Do I have a second?
second.
All right, roll call vote. Cheryl,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. Everybody have a great night, and I will see everybody at 6 o'clock on Wednesday.
See you
Sounds
Wednesday.
good. Thanks,
Wednesday.
folks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.